The following is a representation of a Committee on Special Education, CSE, meeting. This video has been developed by VESID as a companion to the Parents Guide. The purpose of this video is to give parents a sense of what they can expect to see and hear when they attend a meeting. This in no way implies that this is the only way a committee meeting may be conducted. Some meetings may be longer or shorter depending on the nature of what is being discussed. In addition, this video will not include all areas that are required to be discussed at a committee meeting. The Committee on Special Education, CSE, is responsible for students ages 5 through 21. Students may receive services at any point in their academic career. If your child is having difficulty in school, first talk with your child's teachers. There are many supports for students within general education, such as psychological services, speech and language assistance, curriculum and instructional modifications, and academic intervention services. If these do not help your child, special education services may be required. You can make a referral to the Committee on Special Education or the Subcommittee, sometimes referred to as CSE or Sub-CSE. In New York City, this group is known as the School-Based Support Team. Referrals may be made by teachers, doctors, judicial officers, and others. The following is a meeting of the CSE regarding a student who has already been determined to be eligible and is receiving special education services. This is a meeting to review the student's progress in meeting his individualized education program, IEP, goals, and to plan for the next school year. An annual review is held at least once a year to review a student's progress and achievement, to review the student's participation in general education and in the least restrictive environment, to determine the student's continuing eligibility to receive special education services, and to revise the IEP as appropriate. Least restrictive environment means that the placement of students with disabilities in separate settings other than the regular education environment occurs only when education cannot be satisfactorily achieved even with the use of supplementary aids and services. The placement must provide the special education services needed by the student, the education appropriate to the needs of the student with other students who do not have disabilities, and be as close as possible to the student's home.
In conducting an annual review meeting for a student, typically we look at their current levels of performance in various areas. Once it's finally determined what the goals would be for the student, with an understanding of what the child's current levels of performance are and ability levels that you've gained from the assessment, then the committee determines what kinds of support the student would need in order to achieve the goals that you've set for the child. Always keeping in mind that we need to provide for the child whatever support he'll need to achieve general education curriculum standards. Okay,
Ready?
all right.
Okay.
Rachel, would you get the family?
Yeah.
Good morning. My name is Rachel Daniel. I'm the parent representative on the committee this morning. If you'd follow me, we'd get started with your son's meeting. How are you, Matthew? Good. Hi, Matt. Hi.
Hi. Hello. Welcome.
The CSE membership includes the parent of the student, at least one regular education teacher, a special education teacher, a school district representative, an individual who can discuss the evaluation results, a school psychologist, a school physician upon request of the parent, a parent member unless the parent declines their participation, the student, if appropriate, and others with special knowledge or expertise.
Hi, thank you for coming to the Committee on Special Education. We'll start by making introductions of ourselves and giving our role and explaining what our role is on the Committee on Special Education. I'd first like to say, however, we have a parent member. Rachel is our parent member because the family and I had a previous conversation prior to today's meeting where they indicated that they would like to have a district resident who has a child in special education be a member of our committee today. Okay? So let's start with introductions. We've met the teachers before, but I don't think we've ever met the family, and we've never met you. Let's say who we are and what our role would be on the Committee on Special Education, okay? I'll start. My name is Marguerite Bates, and I'm the chairperson, and my job is to basically lead the discussion and to know the rules and the regulations that we have to make our decision by. I think one of the most important aspects of my job is I think I set the tone for the meetings.
With services,
CSE
will
meetings can be
automatically
fairly
guarantee
intimidating.
that
You're meeting with
someone will
strangers,
pick up
people
the
that you
ball
don't really know that well. Your
next
child
year.
is being, for lack of a better word, analyzed. And it can be an uncomfortable setting. I used to be a special education teacher, so I know a lot about teaching and students with needs similar to Matt, okay? So that's what my job is on the committee.
Hi, my name is Andrew Branston, and I'm the psychologist for the committee. And my job is essentially to be a participant and interact and answer any questions that you might have about some of the evaluations. During the meeting, I'm there to answer any questions in regard to some of the issues surrounding maybe a possible learning disability or learning difficulty, to perhaps explain some of the terminology that the parent might not be, familiar with. You might see me looking down and writing a lot. It's because I'm taking the notes, because I'll write the minutes and you'll be getting a copy of the decision-making process and what happens in the mail.
I'm Vicki Fritsch. I'm one of the special ed teachers that works with Matthew every day.
I have a caseload of students that I'm responsible for keeping in touch with their parents directly.
You've heard from me. I'm the one who makes the phone calls or has Matthew make the phone calls home when we need to talk to you.
I always share social, emotional, academic information with the parents. I let them know if things are going well, and I also let them know when things aren't going well. I usually try to introduce myself to them at the very beginning of the school year before there's a problem.
I'm Jinga King. I'm Matthew's English teacher. I'm the general ed teacher that has to agree on placement, discuss the subject area in which the child is in. If you have any questions about his academics within the classroom, what I'm doing with him, what are some goals that we're trying to reach in the classroom, I'll answer any questions about that.
Okay, Rachel?
My name is Rachel Daniel, and I'm the parent representative on committee. I also have a child that's in special ed, and I'm just here to make sure that your questions are being answered and want you to feel comfortable and speak out anytime you feel like it. I go out first and introduce myself to the parent, see if there's any questions they have before we go into the meeting.
And your role on the committee as his parents would be to be an equal participant in any decision that we make today. You're able to give us a broader perspective on Matt, having had him as a little baby.
I don't want it to seem as though it's going to be a meeting that's going to be attacking him, and make sure that he knows that it's to help him and for us to understand and help him go further in life.
For the most part, we want to know if his skills don't improve as rapidly as they feel he should. Will they keep him back in the grade?
And if he's not improving up to the level that they want him to be at, are there certain goals or certain classes or special things they can do to advance him to the level where he needs to be?
You can feel free to share any home situations that may be going on or anything that you feel that we might need to know in order to make the best decision for your child today. Okay? The questions that I was just asking Matt about were to try to get a better understanding as to what he's thinking about, what the student's thinking about for the future. The move from middle school to high school is a big transition, similar to the transition when he was in preschool going to kindergarten. It's a big jump. And what we start to do with kids and their families about this time is to spend a little bit of time thinking about the future in terms of the child's interests, the family's hopes and desires. We know his abilities based on the testing, that he's got You've got a lot of good ability. And we also know from the testing the areas of support that Matt needs as far as to boost his reading and boost his written language and to give him the kind of supports that he needs to help him pay attention as best he can, to get as much out of school as he possibly can. So while we plan in the IEP the day-to-day education supports that he needs, we also need to keep the vision toward the future and keep our standards high and expect that he will in fact achieve everything that he wants to in high school so that he'll become a productive member of society in the future. We know from this and from the testing that Matt is certainly capable and able to achieve in the general education curriculum. Okay, our job is to figure out what kinds of support we need to give Matt in order to help him reach those goals. All right?
As a parent, my concern is that if he is not up to par when it comes time for transition, is there something in place that helps him where he can be up to par so that he can make the transition a little more smoother into high school? Because I know you have a criteria he has to meet in order to get to that level.
Vicki, could you spend just a brief amount of time talking about how you have helped him in reading and what you've learned about this year as far as reading goes that Matt had shared with you? I think you were sharing that a little bit earlier. And the fact that well, then we can talk about what high school can in fact provide, but could you share a little bit about it, that reading situation?
From last year?
Yes, from last year.
Mrs. Stone's question, I think she was
I'm
trying to
sorry.
find out, did you have anything in place for the transition from middle school to high school? Am I correct?
Exactly.
I think we bypassed that. Let's back up.
Okay.
I watch their body language a lot because some parents will show actions if they are saying something they don't understand or if it's something they're fearful about. I will say to the chairperson, you know, would you go over that again, or would you explain that to the person again?
Is that what you're talking about, or
I was talking about if he has
Schoolwork.
problems in something at school, like reading or math or whatever, is there something in place that helps him learn extra things or learn more so he can make transition with the other kids
Right.
easier?
Want to make sure he's not going
Like-
to fail any classes. We
Exactly. Let's move the
don't want him to go
transition for him.
backwards.
high schools provide the same level of service that we can provide in a middle school. Ms. Fritsch, I bet you've been working on some goals for Matt to work on for next year, since we know he's a very bright student. He's got a lot of potential. He'll be receiving the general education curriculum, but what would be the special education areas maybe that we might be working on for next year?
I think that we should continue to work on organizational skills.
Knowing that Matt has the capability to achieve in the general education curriculum with the needs that we've already established, what do we as a committee, meaning all of us, feel is an appropriate level of support for him as far as special education goes for next year? Are we feeling that he needs to be in a separate environment, learning with 5 or 6 other students? Is that what you think you need next year? No. What do you think you need next year?
Same thing as this year?
Same thing as this year. Okay? I think that's a good understanding. All right?
The components of the school age IEP include the student's present levels of performance, the student's strengths and needs, the classification of the disability, the goals and objectives for the school year, the special programs and services needed and supplementary aids and services, any program modifications, how the student will participate in state and district-wide assessments, the extent of the student's non-participation in general education, beginning at age 14, transition needs and services, how parents will be informed of their child's progress, the date services will begin, any assistive technology devices or services needed by the student, testing accommodations as needed, and where the services will be provided. For students 14 and older, long-term adult outcome statements in the IEP should reflect the student's aspirations related to employment, post-secondary education, and community living. The IEP must include transition programs and services which are responsive to the student's needs, preferences, and interests. Connection should be made with adult service agencies before the student leaves school to help them make a smooth transition to adult life.
I think we have reached conclusion.
Okay. I just want to say
Andy?
something to Matt.
Sure.
Okay. Matt, we talked about, your parents talked about, the involvement of your teachers, and I mentioned the fact that, your parents' involvement as well. But a lot of the credit, most of the credit for your improvement, is due to you. And I think you hit it on the head earlier when you said you're more mature now, and you're showing greater responsibility, so you deserve a lot of credit for what's going on in your life. So my hat's off to you.
Right.
And I'd like to say to Mr. and Mrs. Stone, first of all, I want to congratulate you for coming in the meeting. It's very important that parents get involved in their children's education. And it seems like sometimes we don't have enough parents that gets involved. And I think it's because they don't understand. But I'm quite sure now when you leave from here that you've got a good picture of special ed, how important it is to your son, how important it is that you stay involved with his education. And I want to congratulate you and stay encouraged because Matt's going to make it.
Well, thank you for coming to Matt's meeting. Thank you, Matt, for being a part of your meeting. And you'll get a copy of the IEP and the minutes of our meeting in the mail probably by next week. If you do have any questions, feel free to call us. Okay? Thanks again.
Let's go.